Hi, I'm Sarah Gonzalez. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Glenn Beck is back with us.
Yeah.
Yes, welcome. I've been here the whole time, actually. I've just been invisible.
Top story.
Top story today, I think, has to be the conspiracy wire.
Oh, all right. So,
What talk show host is capable of invisibility? We have the answer to that. We're only 2 weeks away from the election, which gives me free pass to be as nerdy about polling stats.
Geek out on us.
I can do that, and we'll do some of that today.
all right, Jason.
Losing a 17-point lead was not the top story for you?
Well, that's why my voice is like this, screaming expletives at the television. We'll do that to your voice, so I apologize.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought maybe you were sick.
No, I'm not sick at all.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Just screaming at
Depends on what kind of sick you mean.
I feel your pain.
The Migrant Caravan, the latest numbers are insane. Who is originally behind this?
Do you have it? Do you have it?
The new numbers.
No, do you have who's behind it yet?
Originally.
All right.
All right, got a lot to get into there. Before we do that, want to thank our sponsor, Brick House. Brick House is getting me through today with their product from dawn to dusk because after a really terrible Cowboys loss, I found it hard to fall asleep. I was really angry. I'm sure you...
Yeah, it was the only thing that got me through today was I knew at least the Cowboys lost too.
That's really nice of you.
But yeah, there's days, especially when you don't get enough sleep or you get that, through one of those mid-afternoon meetings and you're really struggling. No offense, Glenn. You need the dawn to dusk, and it does a great job with that.
Yes, and
I actually slept well last night. I was yesterday. I was in a English pub, believe it or not, and I was watching football. Okay, English football. I don't even know whose side, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. There wasn't any screaming. I was just like, wow, that's fun. And I moved on with my life.
Wow.
and you liked their costumes.
The costumes are nice. Very nice, yes.
But they also have Field of Greens, which I know we've all tried on the show. Usually with men, it's a much better way for them to get their vegetables because you guys are all like, I don't like to eat my vegetables.
True.
That's how we sound.
100%.
Right? It's very accurate. So you can go to brickhouseblaze.com and use promo code GREENS for 15% off of your first order, or you can text GREENS to 41411. Glenn, Conspiracy Wire.
Well, I found out that by just saying the truth about Mr. Khashoggi,
Khashoggi. There's about 20 pronunciations.
the dead guy, I'm a conspiracy theorist. Once again, it's a conspiracy theory just to say what he actually believed. In his own words, it's a conspiracy theory. It shows you how powerful the left is and how in bed the left is with the Muslim Brotherhood. He's the guy in that was killed from Saudi Arabia that was in Istanbul. And there's some new details that have come out that are pretty remarkable. This couldn't happen in a movie. You wouldn't believe it. You'd be like, oh, they'd never do that. But apparently they might have. But let's not forget who he is, and let's not forget who they are. And let's also not forget who Turkey is. There are no good guys in this story. Turkey is not an ally. I remember when we were thinking about, let's bring them into NATO. I remember thinking, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I was playing Britney Spears records at the time. They're not an ally, not a friend. They want a caliphate. They just want to be the head of the caliphate. And it's a Muslim Brotherhood caliphate. Saudi Arabia, they want a caliphate. They want a Wahhabist caliphate. And they have spent millions and millions and millions of dollars spreading that virus even here to the United States. They deny it. Our officials deny it. But anybody who lives in certain parts of Virginia know exactly what I'm talking about. People who live in Dearborn know exactly what I'm talking about. They are not a friend of freedom or the United States. So Khashoggi, Hops and Beverage Incorporated, or whatever that was, he leaves Saudi Arabia because he is for the Muslim Brotherhood. in his own words, yes, I joined the Muslim Brotherhood. He leaves, he takes exile. In one of his writings for the Washington Post, printed in the Post, he says it's foolish to think that any government could be formed in the Middle East that wasn't an Islamicist-run government.
Yeah, but other than his own words.
Other than his own words saying, hey, I'm for an Islamicist government, which, by the way, is never good. That's what Saudi Arabia has, just a different form of Islam, not the Muslim Brotherhood. I tweet this weekend something about him saying, hey, let's not forget Muslim Brotherhood. I'm a conspiracy theorist. No, here are the facts. Here are the facts.
Was it somebody in the media that did that?
No, it was a dog pile. It was a dog pile. I didn't care to even notice who said it. I just noticed it was being said, and it was craziness. Craziness.
Definitely seems like their take on this is to try to any words of criticism on him are being taken as you're excusing what happened, or you're trying to protect Trump, or because everyone has to relate everything to Trump.
I tweeted three things. This is not a defense of Donald Trump's response to this. This is not a defense of Saudi Arabia. He did not deserve this. But it's not a conspiracy to quote him.
Yeah.
No.
Donald Trump, I don't know what he's going to do yet. I don't like the way we've handled it, but I have to reserve the right to say, I don't know how I would handle it as president of the United States. This one's a tough one.
A lot of people in the media and even big-time think tanks like Brookings. I was reading this thing from Brookings really downplaying how bad the Muslim Brotherhood was. Like, actually, not even downplaying it. They were straight up saying that they were going along the lines of they're a secular, political entity. Of course they're not. And everyone that's ever looked into them knows that. But the problem is that the Obama administration was very, very good with people like Ben Rhodes, making people think that, no, they're all good.
Here's how we know about the Muslim Brotherhood, not only through history and when they were founded, not only through their current day slogans and everything else in the Middle East, but we also know because the Muslim Brotherhood printed, and we found after 9/11, a list of their goals in the United States. And one of them was to turn the press into an ally to say the Muslim Brotherhood isn't really anything but a secular group promoting democracy. Well, they're stating what they're trying to do back in the 90s. We find it after 9/11, and now the media just... Wait, what, you don't think they just did that to you? Because that was their goal.
It's Khashoggi's. He's got a really interesting story. He was aligned with the government in the very beginning with the Saudi royal family, and his job was basically to edit newspapers to make sure nothing bad came out about the royal family. That was his job.
If that sounds like a press-loving, freedom guy, you're mistaken.
So he should be the enemy of the press. Just on that background alone, he should be the enemy. But the moment he slipped up was when he allowed a pro-Muslim Brotherhood attack on a Wahhabi cleric to slip through the cracks and get through. Then he got basically kicked off that beat. All of a sudden, he became a media darling. All of a sudden, out of nowhere. It makes absolutely no sense. They should all be of course. I think.
Well, because the timing is interesting. I think the timing. All of his friends ended up in a Saudi slaughterhouse because of the Muslim Brotherhood, because of what was happening in Egypt, and so. By that time, everybody in the media is telling us Muslim Brotherhood and the revolution in Egypt is wonderful. Are they not?
Yeah.
Do I have the timing wrong?
No, yeah.
It is amazing. I mean, the whole story is incredible. Obviously, when this first comes out, there's reasons to be skeptical about it, right? I mean, Turkey is no friend of Saudi Arabia. Almost every report was coming in from Turkey that this was happening. But now we have reports that they actually, after he was murdered, had someone who looked like him put on his clothes and walk around town so he could be caught on camera so they could later say, no, he left here.
That's crazy.
I mean, this is like, it is legitimate, like Brad Thor type stuff going on in the middle of this story.
This story is amazing to me, and I think maybe why it matters in a bigger, a larger context is that we've all just been kind of given a glimpse into the reality on the ground in the Middle East right now. Where we have two allies, they're supposed allies, Turkey and Saudi Arabia. And there's this war that's being fought between the two. And it's a bloody, very bloody war, and they both support terrorist activities on both sides.
Sharia law and the caliphate.
Exactly. And now you have the media and other government, like legacy think tanks, they're all kind of rushing to back their stance they've had over the past decade to say, no, yeah, the Muslim Brotherhood, they're really great guys. They hope that you don't do your own homework and look in. And mark my word, these are facts. Muslim Brotherhood invented modern-day jihadism. They inspired Al-Qaeda. The co-founder with Osama bin Laden was a Muslim Brotherhood member.
They are the ones. They are the ones who said we'll infiltrate Western democracies because we have to destroy them. So we will disguise ourselves as democracy lovers, and we will implant ourselves in there so we can destroy them from the inside. Am I wrong?
You're exactly right.
I mean, this is all well known.
And this is who they've jumped in bed with. But on the other hand, we've also jumped in bed with the Saudis,
Yes.
who is a mafia state. I mean, they're doing the same. They're capable of this
In fact,
barbarism.
it is such a mafia state. Tell me the Godfather part of the story that just came out today.
Oh my gosh, this is insane. So this is a Turkish source, but these keep on rolling out. So supposedly they also have proof that there was a Skype call between one of the guys from Saudi Arabia that ordered the hit. His name's Katani. He's like the head of the prince's communications or something like that. Basically, propaganda main guy, number one. That he Skyped into the torture session. So he's up on a big screen. There's Pops' face. He could see Khashoggi. And he ordered the hit from Skype. So face-to-face, ordered the hit from Skype. Told them to dismember the body, but bring the horse of the head, make sure they bring the horse of the head back to him. So basically bring his head back to me.
Which is Godfather.
Yes.
That's insane.
I mean, it's crazy.
Want to move on to Stu's topic, but I want to make sure that you have enough time to geek out.
Good.
So let's take a break, and we'll be back in a minute.
Because it's full on geek.
Yes,
And it's good geek.
it's Nerdville a little bit, but that's okay.
Yeah, but it's good nerd. Is dealing with
All right, a lot to get into, but I want to make sure we thank our sponsor this segment, My Patriot Supply. Glenn, I know that you have worked with My Patriot Supply for a long time, big advocate of keeping emergency food.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you're seeing this. We were just talking about this morning. I think we're going to do a show, hopefully, on the reality of the ground in the hurricane. Nobody's talking about the president and FEMA and who's to blame and everything else. When you go to Florida, that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about, do you have water? They're talking about, my neighbor doesn't have electricity. How can we get electricity? They're talking about real life stuff. And that's when the crap hits the fan, that's what matters. And that's what My Patriot Supply does, and does better than anybody else. I know, I've looked at all of them. I've been doing this for 20 years. These people are the best.
And they make it easy for schlubs too, which I think is important to note, because Glenn's like an actual, like, he actually, knows stuff about preparation and has been doing this for a while.
I've got a surgery kit.
He's got, I do
And a
not.
book.
Do you really?
I do.
Wow.
And a book.
And a book.
You want your appendix out?
I mean,
I will say, with Obamacare, it may be coming by.
You are a doctor as well.
I am a doctor. He got all that. And I'm looking through this book, and I'm like, who do I know that would have the guts to do this?
Yeah.
You'd have to be laying on the ground going, just cut me open. Okay, but it's not going to work out well.
you can get 2 weeks of emergency food supply. That is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. 2 weeks worth for $75. That is a steal. You can go to preparewithnews.com and get you that 2-week food supply. All right, Stu.
We're 2 weeks away from the election, basically.
2 weeks tomorrow.
And we will have, by the way, coverage here on the Blaze. So
It's not going to be exactly the kind of coverage that you get, on NBC.
it's going to be a tad different. But
Which means it's going to be way better.
Yes.
Yeah, oh, yeah. It's going to be one you're going to want. You're going to want to have some booze.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Join us.
We can make that happen. But what's interesting is there's a new poll out from NBC, and the poll told an interesting story. First of all, it was the best poll that Donald Trump has had in a very long time. I think his approval rating was 47%, which is as high as it's been in a non-Rasmussen poll. Rasmussen has always been very positive for the president.
80%.
Yeah, 80% approval.
Rasmussen, 80%.
But to get that from Wall Street Journal, NBC, is a big deal. But in the poll, they ask a question before a midterm election, and the question is, on a scale from 1 to 10, give me your intensity on this election. How closely are you following? How excited are you? What's the intensity of your participation? And if you look at this going back in history on midterm elections, it really tells the story of each election. For example, go back to 2006. 2006, Democrats had a 69% that had a 9 or a 10 rating.
And they
it was
won.
69 to 56, and that was a wave election for Democrats. 2010 is the next one. Well, you see, that was the Tea Party, wave election. 66 to 49 for Republicans, where they are favored in this high-intensity scale. Go on to 2014, another big Republican win, not quite as big as 2010, but again, a nice lead for Republicans, 59 to 48. You go over to 2018, and this is the story that has been told in the polls, I think, all the way leading up to this point, which has been Democrats look poised for a pretty solid win, where they would win the House and have a shot at the Senate, though structurally it's very difficult for them to take the Senate this time. But it was going to be a Democratic situation. That goes all the way up to September. Kavanaugh happens, and now look at it. Democrats are more intense than they were at the beginning of the year by 9 points, but Republicans are more intense by 15 points. They've closed the gap from 10 to 4, and now if you look at all 5 of those elections, you will see that 72% Democrats and 68% Republicans at high intensity are the highest of any party in all of those elections. For the most part, 72 is the highest in the entire history, at least going back in at least recent history. And then you just see Democrats at 69. Basically, these are the 2 highest numbers you're going to get out of all of this, which is really interesting because I think now the Kavanaugh thing, with some other details, have really built up the people going to their own sides and saying, you know what, I really care about this. Usually in midterms, this helps Republicans because when Republicans care, they're more likely to vote. Their likely voters are more likely to go to the polls. There's a little bit of a reverse in here where I said Trump was at 47% approval among registered voters. He's only 45% among likely voters, which is it's usually the opposite. I will say, like it's kind of exciting if you're a poll nerd because, they don't really know what the hell is going to happen here. They think, Republicans are going to lose the House. They think Republicans are going to hold the Senate. But I think, anything's on the table.
Did you notice what I talked? Am I the only one that has seen this? Because maybe it's skewed. I've seen stories that are now couching from left sources that are now couching this whole thing with, it's really an uphill battle. Always been an uphill battle for the Democrats to take the House. No, it wasn't.
Yeah, no,
It
not
wasn't.
at all. I mean,
Because
this
it was just a couple weeks ago, Nancy Pelosi said, was it going to be a blue wave or is it going to be a tsunami? We don't know.
I don't know, right? No, that's very true, and that's
Kavanaugh, you blew it.
interesting. You notice that because it really has been a change of messaging from them. I mean, they were out there saying they were going to do this, and they had a really good chance of taking the Senate. And all of a sudden, it's this big uphill battle. That tells you something, and that's what it tells you is probably really good for Republicans.
Can I ask you one question? You know, we had Ben Sasse on today on the radio, and Ben is not real popular right now. He said some things that are making people really angry. Looking at that, I'm trying to figure out what Ben is saying based on what I see retweeted. And the sentiment, see if this makes sense with the poll numbers. If Kavanaugh would not have been supported by Donald Trump, we would not be seeing these poll numbers. The Republicans would not be on fire to go out and vote. Would you agree with that?
Possibly. I think there's also a chance if they didn't get a nominee through, they may be very intense to get a nominee through.
I think this happened because I think we would have been demoralized, but I think Donald Trump is seen, like him or not, is seen by a lot of people as somebody who at least is in the fight. He's taking a stand and he's in the fight every day, and they like that somebody is standing up and fighting. So with Ben Sasse, Ben is a guy who is talking about, like me, is a guy who's talking about it, written a book about it, but he ain't in the fight every day. And so you don't get that extra credit of, look, man, I'm in the middle of battle. I'm going to make some mistakes, but at least I'm in the battle.
I think that's partly true. I think, you know, with the Kavanaugh issue and Sasse in particular, like Sasse is, you know, look, he gets publicity because he's one of the very few Republicans who will ever say one even questioning word of Donald Trump. So he gets a lot of publicity about that, and people, I think, take him as this big-time Trump opponent. We went over the numbers today. I mean, he's voting with the guy 87% of the time. He's not. I mean, you know, he doesn't like his approach.
Yeah, he doesn't like his approach.
But still, you know, this is light criticism coming from a real ally in Congress. There's no reason for this. I think the Trump thing is part of it. I tend to believe that the biggest part of these numbers strengthening for Republicans, as it relates to Kavanaugh, was how insane the Democrats went. And I think Trump's part of that. Like, I think Trump drives people to up their level of crazy. And the media, I think, is guilty of that, and I think the Democrats are too. And they went so far, so crazy, to points that were so indefensible that I think a lot of Republicans were like, whoa, we can't let this happen.
Right, and I don't think it's separate from Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, all of the stuff, go get them at the lunch counters, go get them where they're eating, all of that stuff,
helping.
Plus Democratic socialists saying, yeah, capitalism isn't always going to be here, and Kavanaugh, the world has gone insane, and people are like, I got to get out and vote.
I think, too, the caravan is part of this. I know you're going to the caravan here in a second.
It's a blessing for Republicans.
It's a gift to Donald Trump. But look at these polls. This is another interesting part of this. 2006, again, wave election. This is right after the comprehensive immigration thing fails with Bush. They're at 62% Latino voter with high interest in the election, and that's a big win for Democrats. 2010, again, a Republican one, it drops down to 48. 2014, another Republican win, they're down at 41%. In 2018, up to this point, 47%, really middling and not all that exciting. However, the caravan going on, 71%. It's 71% of Latino voters now at high
I doubt
interest.
that's caravan. I think that's too early for caravan.
It might be too early for caravan, although it is on the heels of the children in cages controversy that could also be influencing that. So, I mean, I think that stuff is going to be playing into it. And so, really, there's a lot of conflicting information there. They really don't know what's going to happen right now.
Well, I mean, it's interesting, too, because, before Donald Trump got elected, they thought that they knew that Hillary was going to win, didn't they?
Yeah, I will say that they are much more sure on the polling now to say the Republicans are going to lose the House and win the Senate than they were with Trump. I mean, Trump, people say that, they had no idea it was coming. I'm like, they gave him a 30% chance. I mean, that's not nothing. They did not see him as the favorite, is the really easy way to talk about that. I mean, but a good hitter has a 300 batting average. It's about what they said he had a chance to win. I mean, There were some of them were not like that. I mean, some of them there's some of those projection models that gave them almost no chance. But I mean, 538, which is the most talked about one, was about 30%. I mean, here they're saying 18%, 20% chance. So I mean, the polls don't look great, but these numbers are kind of conflicting. And the Kavanaugh thing was real. Whether it holds all the way to the election, I don't know in the news cycle like this. Will people even remember Brett Kavanaugh's name in a month after he was put in? I don't even know anymore.
Well, I think maybe too. People confronting Mitch McConnell at a restaurant, those things happening, I think, will also
that all
factor into
just
it.
dog piles.
Good for Republicans.
Yeah,
though.
good for Republicans.
Yeah, exactly. All right, back in a minute.
So do you think the Caravan is going to hit hard here?
That would be bad for Republicans. Other one?
Still coming up, we have the Migrant Caravan and how that is going to affect. I would like to talk about how you guys think that is going to affect the midterms, because we were just having a discussion off air.
I just want to point out, this is something that Jason and I have been following for 6 months now. Mm-hmm. This is what we thought was coming in June or May of last year, and lo and behold, here it is, just in time for the election.
Was that last year? I thought that wasn't this year.
That was this year.
That was last spring. Okay, last spring, yeah. Because I mean, you're talking about that as it relates to the election. We went back and looked at. You go back and watch some of those old shows. We really walk through with people who created it, who what they're attempting to do.
Where their money having a hard time nailing down who's created this one, but it will reveal itself at some point. 5,000 people. You were in the military. When's the last time you rushed a border with 5,000 people?
Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And for those of you who have not subscribed to the podcast yet, what are you waiting for? Go to iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts, subscribe and rate us, and we will see you guys in overtime.